Marcus wiped the sweat from his brow as he surveyed the cramped quarters of his mining station on Kepler 442b. 3 years into his 5-year contract, the isolation was beginning to wear on him. The only company he had were the automated systems, and occasional supply drops from the orbital platform. That changed when the transport ship arrived with an unusual cargo manifest. "Got a refugee here," Captain Torres announced over the comm. "Alien female, needs work placement. Command says you're authorized to take on an assistant if you want one." Marcus hesitated. He'd heard stories about the ongoing conflicts in the outer systems. Entire worlds displaced by territorial wars between species he couldn't pronounce the names of. But an extra pair of hands, even alien ones, might be useful. The airlock cycled, and she stepped through. She was humanoid, but clearly not human, standing about 5.5 feet tall with pale blue skin that seemed to shimmer slightly in the artificial light. Her hair was silver white and fell in straight lines to her shoulders. Most striking were her eyes, a deep violet that seemed to hold depths Marcus couldn't fathom. She wore simple gray coveralls that had seen better days. "I am Kira," she said, her voice soft but clear and accented standard. "I seek work. I am skilled in many areas." There was something about the way she carried herself that struck Marcus as odd. Despite her humble words and worn clothing, she moved with a grace that suggested she was accustomed to better circumstances. But desperation had a way of humbling everyone eventually. "What kind of work experience do you have?" Marcus asked. Kira's violet eyes flickered with something that might have been amusement. "I have managed large projects, coordinated many people. I am familiar with technology and can learn quickly." It wasn't much to go on, but Marcus found himself nodding. "The work here is mostly mining operations. Long hours, hard labor. The pay isn't great, but it includes room and board." "I accept," she said immediately. Over the following weeks, Marcus discovered that Kira was unlike any worker he'd ever encountered. She mastered the mining equipment in days rather than weeks. Her technical intuition was remarkable. She could diagnose problems with machinery that had stumped Marcus for months. More importantly, she seemed to anticipate his needs before he voiced them. But there were oddities. Sometimes he caught her speaking into her personal communicator in a language that sounded like musical chimes. When she thought he wasn't looking, her posture would straighten, and she would move with an authority that seemed almost regal. One evening, as they shared their meager dinner in the station's common area, Marcus decided to probe gently. "You seem overqualified for this work," he observed. "What were you doing before the war displaced you?" Kira's fork paused halfway to her mouth. For a moment, her composed mask slipped, and Marcus saw something that looked like pain. "I was in service to my people," she said carefully. "But circumstances changed. Sometimes one must accept a different path than originally intended." Marcus nodded, understanding the weight of circumstances beyond one's control. He'd taken this mining job not out of passion, but necessity. Student loans didn't pay themselves. What he didn't know was that the woman sitting across from him was Princess Kira Seth of the Valthara Empire, heir to a throne that commanded the loyalty of 47 star systems. And that her presence on this remote mining station would soon draw the attention of forces that would change both their lives forever. 3 weeks after Kira's arrival, the mining station's long-range sensors detected an approaching ship. Marcus frowned at the readings. It was massive, easily 10 times the size of the largest transport he'd ever seen at the station. "Attention mining station Kepler 442 Alpha," came a voice over the communications array. The translator struggled with the alien language before converting it to standard. "Prepare for diplomatic inspection. Lower your shields and prepare for boarding." Marcus glanced at Kira, who had gone rigid beside the console. Her violet eyes were wide with what looked suspiciously like fear. "I don't have shields," Marcus replied into the comm. "This is a civilian mining operation." "What kind of inspection?" The transmission cut off, and within minutes, a sleek shuttle had docked with their small station. The airlock cycled, and 6 figures in elaborate ceremonial armor stepped through. They were clearly of the same species as Kira, but their bearing was military, formal. The leader removed his helmet, revealing features similar to Kira's, but more angular, with ceremonial scarring along his cheekbones. His eyes immediately found Kira, and he dropped to one knee. "Your Highness," he said in their musical language, "we have searched every system in this sector." Marcus's translator caught some of it, and he felt his stomach drop. "Highness?" Kira stepped forward, and suddenly her entire demeanor changed. The humble servant was gone, replaced by someone who radiated authority. When she spoke, it was in that same musical language, but her tone was sharp, commanding. The kneeling alien, clearly some kind of military officer, looked uncomfortable. "Princess, your father grows impatient. The succession cannot wait indefinitely." Standard," Kira said firmly, glancing at Marcus. "My employer deserves to understand what is happening in his own facility." The officer looked at Marcus as if seeing him for the first time, his expression a mixture of surprise and disdain. "Your Highness, surely you don't mean this human has been—" "Commander Vel." Kira's voice carried a warning. "You will show respect." Marcus felt like the ground had shifted beneath him. "Princess?" he managed. Kira turned to him, and he saw genuine regret in her violet eyes. "I apologize for the deception, Marcus. My full name is Kiraseth Veltaran, Crown Princess of the Valthera Empire. I came here seeking refuge after political complications at home." "Political complications," Commander Vel said dryly. "Your Highness, you fled rather than accept the marriage alliance with Prince Gorth of the Nexari Federation. Your father has been negotiating this treaty for 2 years. Marcus watched as Kira's expression hardened. "I will not be bartered like cargo to secure trade agreements. There are other ways to achieve peace between our peoples." "Princess," Vel said carefully, "your personal feelings aside, this marriage would prevent a war that could devastate both empires. Billions of lives hang in the balance." The weight of what Marcus was witnessing began to settle on him. This wasn't just about an alien refugee who had been helping him mine asteroids. This was galactic politics, the kind of decisions that shaped the fate of entire civilizations. "And what about his life?" Kira asked suddenly, gesturing toward Marcus. "In 3 weeks, he has shown me more kindness and respect than I received in years at court. He accepted me as I was, asked for nothing more than honest work. When did we forget that individual dignity matters?" Commander Vel looked at Marcus, again, this time with something approaching curiosity. "You treated her as an equal, even not knowing her station?" Marcus found his voice. "She was a person who needed work. I needed help. It seemed pretty straightforward." The concept appeared to genuinely puzzle the commander. "Fascinating. Your Highness, while this human's egalitarian approach is admirable in its simplicity, it doesn't change the larger situation. Your empire needs you." Kira was quiet for a long moment, clearly torn between duty and personal conviction. Finally, she looked at Marcus. "I'm sorry," she said. "I never intended for you to become involved in this." But as Marcus looked at her, really looked at her, he realized that maybe getting involved was exactly what needed to happen. "Give us a minute," Marcus said to Commander Vel, surprising everyone, including himself. "I need to talk to Kira." Vel's expression shifted to something between outrage and bewilderment. "You presume to dismiss the royal guard of the Valthara Empire?" "I'm asking for privacy to talk to someone who's been working alongside me for 3 weeks, Marcus replied firmly. "On my station." Kira looked at him with something like gratitude. "Commander, please wait in your shuttle. I will join you shortly." Vel clearly wanted to argue, but a lifetime of military discipline won out. He gave a curt bow and led his team back toward the airlock, though Marcus noticed they didn't go far. When they were alone, Kira sank into one of the chairs, suddenly looking smaller than her 5.5 feet. "I'm sorry," she said again. "I never wanted to lie to you." "But you did lie," Marcus pointed out, not unkindly. "The question is why?" Kira was quiet for a moment, staring at her hands. "Do you know what it's like to have every decision made for you? To be told who you'll marry, what policies you'll support, how you'll spend every moment of your life? I thought I was escaping to find myself, but instead I found something better." "What's that?" "A friend who saw me as just Kira." Marcus felt a pang at that. Despite the deception, the person who had worked beside him, who had shared meals and conversation, had been real. The humility might have been partly an act, but the loneliness behind it hadn't been. "Okay," he said. "So what's really going on? Here? This marriage alliance? How bad is it?" Kira's laugh was bitter. "Prince Gorth is unpleasant, cruel. His idea of diplomacy involves conquest, and his treatment of those beneath him is legendary for all the wrong reasons. But the alternative is war between our peoples, and the Nexari Federation has 3 times our military capacity. There has to be another way," Marcus said. "There always is." "You sound very certain for someone who just learned about intergalactic politics." "Maybe that's why I can see it clearly," Marcus replied. "I'm not buried in tradition and protocol. Look, in human history, we've had plenty of situations like this. Sometimes the traditional solution isn't the right one." Kira looked at him curiously. "What would you suggest?" Marcus thought for a moment. "What does the Nexari Federation actually want? Is it really about marriage, or is there something else?" "Trade routes," Kira said immediately. "Access to our systems, our resources. The marriage was meant to solidify a treaty that would give them preferential trading status. So, it's economics, not politics. Everything is politics when you're royal. But everything is also economics when you think about it practically," Marcus countered. "What if you could offer them something better than a marriage alliance? Something that benefits them more?" Before Kira could answer, the station's proximity alarms began blaring. Both of them rushed to the sensor displays, and Marcus felt his blood chill. "That's a Nexari battlecruiser," Kira said, her voice tight. "They must have tracked Vel's ship." As if summoned by their conversation, Commander Vel's voice crackled over the comm. "Your Highness, we have a problem. Prince Gorth is aboard that vessel, and he's demanding your immediate surrender. He claims you're a prisoner being held against your will." Marcus looked at Kira, who had gone pale. "How long before they reach us?" 12 minutes, Vel replied. "Can your ship outrun them? Not with their head start and superior engines." Marcus made a decision that surprised even him. "Then we don't run." "Marcus," Kira said urgently, "you don't understand. Gorth won't hesitate to destroy this station if he thinks it will serve his purposes. You need to get as far away from me as possible." Instead, Marcus moved to the station's communication array. "Commander Vel, patch me through to that battlecruiser." "Marcus, no!" Kira protested. But Marcus was already keying the transmission. "Nexari vessel, this is Marcus Chen, operator of mining station Kepler 442 Alpha. I understand you're here for diplomatic reasons. I'd like to propose a conversation before anyone does anything irreversible." The reply came in heavily accented standard. "Human, you will surrender the Valthara princess immediately, or we will take her by force." "Actually," Marcus said, glancing at Kira with what he hoped looked like confidence, "I think we might have a better deal to offer you." The silence that followed Marcus's statement stretched for what felt like an eternity. Through the viewports, he could see the Nexari battlecruiser growing larger as it approached the station. "You have 3 minutes to explain yourself, human," came the response. The voice was different now, deeper, more authoritative. This had to be Prince Gorth himself. Marcus looked at Kira, who was staring at him as if he'd lost his mind. Maybe he had. "Your Highness," Marcus said into the comm, "I understand you're here to collect Princess Kira for a marriage alliance that would secure trade agreements between your peoples. But what if I told you there was a way to get everything you want, without the marriage?" "Impossible!" Gorth's voice crackled back. "The Valthara have nothing else to offer that interests us." "Actually they do," Marcus said, his mind racing. "But first, you need to understand what you're really looking at. Here." He gestured for Kira to join him at the communications console. She approached reluctantly. "Princess," Marcus said, "tell him about the mining operation here, what we've discovered." Kira frowned, clearly not following his logic. "Marcus, we've been mining standard rare earth elements, nothing revolutionary." "No," Marcus said, pulling up the geological surveys on his tablet. "Look at the isotope compositions again. Really look." Kira's violet eyes widened as she studied the data. "These concentrations, they're impossible. The purity levels—" "What are you seeing?" Gorth's voice demanded over the comm. Marcus leaned forward. "Your Highness, This asteroid field contains the largest concentration of pure quantum-stabilized minerals anyone has ever discovered. We're talking about the raw materials for FTL drive cores, gravitic manipulators, energy weapons, the foundation of all advanced technology. There was a long pause. Then, prove it. Marcus quickly transmitted the geological data. While they waited for Gorth's scientists to analyze it, he turned to Kira. The marriage alliance was about trade routes and resources, he whispered. But what if the Velthara Empire could offer the Nexari exclusive mining rights to the most valuable mineral deposits in known space? The Nexari would have to guarantee our territorial integrity in return, Kira said, catching on. No need for political marriage if we have an economic partnership that benefits both sides. Commander Vel's voice came through on a private channel. Your Highness, are you seriously considering taking strategic advice from a human miner? Yes, Kira replied firmly. Because unlike everyone else who's tried to solve this problem, he's not thinking like a politician. He's thinking like someone who actually wants a solution. Gorth's voice returned, and Marcus could hear the excitement he was trying to suppress. The mineral concentrations are significant, but exclusive mining rights would require long-term guarantees. 50-year exclusive extraction contract, Marcus said immediately, with renewal options. The Nexari provide defense guarantees for Velthara space during the contract period. Instead of one marriage alliance, you get half a century of the most valuable trade partnership in the galaxy. And what do you get out of this arrangement, human? Gorth asked, suspicion clear in his voice. Marcus glanced at Kira, who was looking at him with an expression he couldn't quite read. I get to see someone I care about make her own choices about her life, instead of being bartered away like cargo. There was another long silence. Then, unexpectedly, the sound of what might have been laughter came through the calm. Fascinating, Gorth said. A human who negotiates interstellar treaties for romantic reasons. Very well. I will consider this proposal. But I want to meet face to face, all parties involved. Your Highness, Commander Vel interjected. Protocol. Requires. Protocol, Gorth interrupted. Has not solved this problem in 2 years. Perhaps it's time to try something else. Human, you and the princess will join me aboard my vessel in 1 hour. Come alone. The transmission ended, leaving Marcus, Kira, and Commander Vel staring at each other. This is insane, Vel said flatly. Your Highness, you cannot seriously be considering this. Can't I? Kira asked. Marcus has done more to solve this crisis in 10 minutes than our combined diplomatic corps has managed in months. She turned to Marcus, and he saw something in her eyes that made his heart skip. But are you sure about this? If it goes wrong, you could end up in the middle of an interstellar war. Marcus shrugged. 3 weeks ago, my biggest worry was whether the asteroid crusher would break down again. I figure I can handle one alien prince. He's not just any alien prince, Kira warned. Gorth is dangerous, unpredictable. He doesn't think like we do. Good thing I don't think like anyone else either, Marcus replied. Besides, someone once told me that sometimes you have to accept a different path than originally intended. Kira smiled at that. A real smile. The first he'd seen from her since the truth came out. You're either very brave or very foolish. Probably both, Marcus admitted. But it's worked out okay so far. The interior of the Nexari battlecruiser was a study in militant grandeur. Dark metal corridors lined with weapon displays led to a central chamber that seemed designed to intimidate. Marcus tried not to think about the fact that this ship could probably vaporize his entire mining station with a single shot. Prince Gorth was waiting for them in what appeared to be a combination throne room and war room. He was larger than Marcus had expected, nearly 7 feet tall with the same blue-tinted skin as Kira. But where she was graceful, he was imposing. His eyes were a darker shade of violet, almost black, and they studied Marcus with undisguised curiosity. So, Gorth said in accented standard, you are the human who thinks he can solve problems that have confounded diplomats for years. I'm the human who thinks problems usually have simpler solutions than diplomats make them out to be, Marcus replied. That earned him what might have been a smile from Gorth. Direct. I appreciate directness. Princess Kiraseth, you look well for someone who has been slumming among the working class. I look well because I've been treated with respect, Kira replied evenly. Something that has been in short supply lately. Gorth's expression darkened slightly. Respect is earned through strength, princess. Something your people have forgotten, and yet you're here negotiating instead of simply taking what you want, Marcus observed. That suggests you understand that some things are worth more when they're freely given. The prince turned his attention back to Marcus. You interest me, human. Most of your species cower when faced with superior technology and firepower. Yet you stand there as if we are equals. Aren't we? Marcus asked. I mean, you want something? I want something. The princess wants something. We're all just people trying to find a solution that works for everyone. Gorth actually laughed at that. People. You reduce interstellar politics to personal relationships. All politics are personal. In the end, Marcus said, the question is whether the personal cost is worth the political gain. Explain this treaty you propose, Gorth said, his tone becoming more serious. Marcus activated his tablet, displaying the mineral survey data. The asteroid field around Kepler 442b contains enough quantum-stabilized materials to supply your entire fleet for decades. The extraction rights alone would be worth more than any trade agreement you could make with the Valthara Empire. And in return, the Nexari Federation guarantees the territorial integrity of Valthara space for the duration of the mining contract. You get the resources you need, they get the security they need, and nobody has to get married to someone they don't want to marry. Gorth looked at Kira. You would agree to this? If it means my people are safe and I maintain the right to choose my own path, yes. Even if that path leads you back to a human mining station. Marcus felt a flush of embarrassment, but Kira's answer surprised him. Even then. Gorth was quiet for a long moment, clearly weighing the proposal. Finally, he stood and walked to a viewport overlooking the asteroid field. There is one problem with your plan, human, he said. The mineral rights to this system don't belong to the Valthara Empire. They belong to the Terran Colonial Authority, your people. Marcus felt his stomach drop. He'd been so focused on the political aspects that he'd forgotten the legal ones. However, Gorth continued, that actually makes this more interesting. Tell me, human, what authority do you have to negotiate on behalf of your government? None, Marcus admitted. I'm just a mining contractor, precisely, which means we need to think bigger than a simple trade agreement. Gorth turned back to them, and Marcus saw something calculating in his eyes. What if this alliance involved 3 parties instead of 2? 3 parties? Kira asked. The Nexari, Federation, the Valthara Empire, and the Terran Colonial Authority. A triangle of mutual benefit instead of a bilateral marriage alliance. Gorth looked at Marcus. Your people get a share of the profits from the mining operation, plus preferred status in any trade agreements. The Valthara get security guarantees. The Nexari get access to the resources they need. Marcus stared at him. You're talking about a 3-way interstellar alliance. I'm talking about the foundation of something that could reshape this entire sector of space, Gorth replied. All because one human was brave enough to offer an alternative to tradition. There's just one small problem, Marcus said. I still don't have the authority to negotiate something like this. Prince Gorth's smile was sharp. Then I suggest you get it. Because, princess, this human has done something very few beings have ever managed. What's that? Kira asked. He's made me curious about what humans are truly capable of when they set their minds to something. 3 days later, Marcus found himself in the most surreal situation of his life, sitting in a virtual conference room with representatives from 3 different species, negotiating treaties that would affect billions of lives. The Terran Colonial Authority had responded to his emergency transmission with a mixture of skepticism and barely contained excitement. Admiral Lisa Park, their lead negotiator, appeared on the holographic display with the kind of expression that suggested she was either about to make history or court-martial someone. Let me get this straight, Miner, Admiral Park said. You've somehow convinced 2 alien empires to abandon their traditional alliance structure in favor of a 3-way partnership centered around your asteroid field. That's roughly accurate, Marcus replied. And you did this without any formal diplomatic training or government authorization. Also accurate. Admiral Park looked at Prince Gorth's holographic image. Your Highness, I have to ask, Why are you taking strategic advice from a civilian contractor? Gorth's response was surprisingly thoughtful. Admiral, your species has something that mine lacks. The ability to see solutions that aren't bound by tradition. In one conversation, this human identified possibilities that our finest strategic minds missed entirely. The mineral survey data speaks for itself, Princess Kira added from her position beside Marcus. The economic potential of this partnership far exceeds anything achievable through traditional military alliances. Marcus watched the interplay between the three leaders, fascinated by the dynamics. Admiral Park was cautious, but intrigued. Prince Gorth was calculating but genuinely interested in the possibilities. Princess Kira was passionate but diplomatic. The security implications alone are significant, Admiral Park continued. The Terran Colonial Authority has been looking for ways to establish meaningful partnerships in this sector for years. And the Nixari have been seeking stable sources of strategic materials, Gorth added. This arrangement provides both. What about the Vaelthura Empire's concerns? Marcus asked, looking at Kira. Our primary need is security, she replied. For too long, we've been caught between larger powers, forced to make compromises that benefit everyone except our own people. This partnership offers us genuine protection without sacrificing our autonomy. Admiral Park leaned forward. The preliminary economic projections are impressive, but what happens when the asteroid field is exhausted? These resources aren't infinite. Actually, Marcus said, pulling up his geological surveys again. That's where the long-term vision comes in. The extraction techniques we develop here could be applied to similar fields throughout the sector. We're not just talking about one mining operation. We're talking about the foundation of a completely new economic model. Explain, Gorth said, clearly intrigued. Marcus felt a moment of imposter syndrome. Here he was, discussing interstellar economics with beings who commanded fleets and planets. But then he looked at Kira, who gave him an encouraging nod. Traditional colonial extraction is based on exploitation, he began. One party extracts resources from another's territory, usually through military force or economic coercion. But what if we flip that model? What if extraction became a partnership where everyone benefits? Cooperative resource development, Admiral Park said slowly. The extracting party provides technology and expertise. The hosting party provides resources and security. The mediating party provides logistics and distribution. Exactly. And because everyone has a stake in the success of the operation, everyone has incentive to maintain peace and stability. Prince Gorth was quiet for a moment, then spoke with what sounded like genuine respect. Human, you have described something that political theorists have debated for centuries, a truly sustainable model for interspecies cooperation. I've described mining, Marcus said with a shrug. The principles are the same whether you're dealing with asteroids or star systems. The conference continued for several more hours, hammering out the details of what would become known as the Kepler Accords. Marcus found himself appointed as the human representative for the mining operation, a role that came with responsibilities he was still trying to understand. As the formal negotiations wound down, Admiral Park made an observation that would prove prophetic. This is remarkable, she said. In 3 days, you've accomplished what our diplomatic corps has been trying to achieve for decades. You've created a framework for cooperation that doesn't depend on military dominance or economic exploitation. It helps that I didn't know it was supposed to be impossible, Marcus replied. After the conference ended, Marcus and Kira found themselves alone in the station's common area. The weight of what they'd accomplished was beginning to settle in. So, Kira said, it looks like I won't be going back to royal duties anytime soon. Are you okay with that? Marcus asked. She smiled. I think I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be. Besides, someone needs to make sure you don't accidentally start any more interstellar alliances. That was a one-time thing, Marcus protested. Was it? Kira asked, and Marcus realized she might be right. Something had changed in the past few days. Not just in the political landscape of the sector, but in him. He'd discovered that humans might have more to offer the galaxy than he'd ever imagined. Was it? Kira asked, and Marcus realized she might be right. Something had changed in the past few days. Not just in the political landscape of the sector, but in him. He'd discovered that humans might have more to offer the galaxy than he'd ever imagined. 6 months after the signing of the Kepler Accords, the mining station had been transformed into something unrecognizable. What had once been a simple asteroid mining operation was now the hub of the most ambitious cooperative development project in known space. Marcus stood on the observation deck of the expanded facility, watching as ships from 3 different species worked together in the asteroid field. Terran extraction vessels worked alongside Nexari transport ships, while Valthara science vessels conducted geological surveys of nearby systems. "Impressive, isn't it?" Kira said, joining him at the viewport. She wore the deep blue uniform of the Joint Operations Command, with insignia that identified her as Deputy Director of Interspecies Relations, a position that hadn't existed before the Accords. "Sometimes I still can't believe it's real," Marcus admitted. 6 months ago I was worried about keeping the asteroid crusher running. Now I'm overseeing mining operations across 4 star systems. "Success suits you," Kira observed. "Though, I have to admit, I miss the simplicity of those first few weeks." Marcus smiled. "You mean when you were pretending to be a refugee who needed work?" "I mean when we were just 2 people figuring out how to work together." They stood in comfortable silence for a moment, watching the organized chaos of the mining operation. A Nexari supply ship was docking at Bay 7, while a Terran science vessel prepared to depart from Bay 3. Representatives from a dozen different species moved through the corridors of the station, all working toward the same goal. "Admiral Park sent another message," Kira said eventually. "The Colonial Authority wants to expand the Accords model to the Rigel sector. Apparently there's been fighting there for 15 years over mineral rights." "What did you tell her?" "That we'd consider it after we finish the current expansion." "But Marcus..." She turned to look at him. "Are you ready for this to become permanent? The life you had before? The quiet, simple life. It's not coming back." Marcus considered that. The past 6 months had been a whirlwind of negotiations, construction projects, and diplomatic meetings. He'd gone from being a solitary miner to being a key figure in interstellar politics. It should have been overwhelming, but somehow it felt right. "You know what the funny thing is?" he said. "I came out here to get away from people, to find some peace and quiet. But it turns out the most meaningful thing I could do was bring people together, even alien people, especially alien people. Humans have always been good at adaptation, at finding ways to make things work. Maybe that's what we're supposed to contribute to the galaxy. Not superior technology or military might, but the ability to see past differences and find common ground." A chime from the communications console interrupted their conversation. Commander Vel's image appeared on the display, transmitting from the Valthara homeworld. "Your Highness, Director," he said formally. "I have news from the capital." "Good. News, I hope," Kira replied. "The best possible news. The Emperor has formally ratified the Kepler Accords expansion treaty. More importantly, he's announced that the traditional succession laws are being revised." Marcus saw Kira's eyes widen. "Revised how?" "Heirs to the throne may now choose their own path to leadership. Military service, diplomatic achievement, economic development, all are considered valid demonstrations of royal worthiness." Vel's expression was carefully neutral, but Marcus caught a hint of satisfaction. "Your work here has been classified as diplomatic achievement of the highest order." "Which means," Marcus prompted. "Which means," Kira said slowly, "I don't have to choose between being a princess and being myself. I can be both." After Vel signed off, they returned to watching the mining operation. But the mood had shifted, becoming more thoughtful. "So what happens now?" Marcus asked. "Now we keep building," Kira said. "The Rigel expansion, the new trade routes, the research partnerships, this is just the beginning." "And us?" Kira turned to face him fully. "That depends. Are you asking as the Director of Operations to the Deputy Director of Interspecies Relations? Or as Marcus to Kira?" "I'm asking as someone who cares about you and wants to know if this crazy adventure we've started is something we're doing together." "Marcus," Kira said, stepping closer. "You gave me the chance to choose my own path. The path I choose includes you, if you'll have me." Before Marcus could respond, another chime from the communications console announced an incoming message. This one was From Prince Gorth, Director Princess, Gorth's image appeared, looking unusually pleased. I'm transmitting from our newest mining facility in the Cygnus sector. The techniques developed at Kepler 442b have exceeded all projections. That's excellent news, Marcus replied. Indeed. But that's not why I'm calling. The Nexari High Command has approved something unprecedented. A permanent embassy on your station. We want to formalize our partnership and learn more about human problem-solving methodologies. After Gorth signed off, Marcus looked at Kira with amazement. An embassy. They want to study how humans think. Can you blame them? In less than a year, you've revolutionized interspecies cooperation. The old models of conquest and domination are being replaced by partnership and mutual benefit. That's not just politically significant, it's evolutionary. Marcus shook his head. All I did was apply basic problem-solving skills. No, Kira said firmly. You did something much more important. You proved that individuals can change the course of history when they refuse to accept that problems are unsolvable. You showed 3 different species that there was a better way forward. As if to underscore her point, the station's AI announced the arrival of another ship. This one from a species Marcus didn't recognize. Attention Kepler Station, came a transmission in heavily accented standard. This is Captain Thorne of the Altarian Trade Collective. We've heard about your cooperative mining model and would like to discuss possible participation in your alliance. Marcus and Kira looked at each other and burst out laughing. I think, Kira said, we're going to need a bigger station. As they walked back toward the command center to deal with their newest diplomatic challenge, Marcus reflected on how much had changed. He'd come to this remote corner of space seeking solitude, and had instead become the catalyst for a new era of interstellar cooperation. But the most important change wasn't political or economic. It was personal. He'd found something he hadn't even known he was looking for. A partner who challenged him to be better than he thought possible, and a purpose that gave meaning to every day. The future stretched ahead of them, full of possibilities and challenges. More species would want to join their alliance. New problems would arise that would test their innovative solutions. The galaxy was vast, and there was work to be done. But for the first time in his life, Marcus wasn't facing that future alone. He had Kira beside him, a growing alliance of friends and partners from across the stars, and the knowledge that sometimes the most important revolutions begin with a simple act of kindness between strangers. The human who had accepted an alien servant had not only discovered she was a powerful princess, he had helped her become something more. A leader who chose cooperation over conquest, partnership over power, and love over duty. And together, they were just getting started. Human accepts alien servant, finds out she's a powerful princess,